We can get the second chat room open and then get started. In fact, we can already just put out a seek because it can take a while. And love me now, hold me down. Where's my sound coming out? Speakers. Okay. All right. Found the Queen's Gambit. All right, A6. Queen's Gambit accepted. Yeah, it is Sweet Blue. What should I do next? I'm going to stop knight b4, knight d3. This is the kind of move I hate to play, but I'm already low enough on time that I can't spend a lot of time thinking about fancier ways to get a good position here, you know. Just grab a little space on the king side. That move was terrible by my opponent, by the way. That c6 looking move. Whew. How do I make a threat here? I need to make a threat at some point. Doing good, Ray. Hey, Yellow. Cheers, everybody. Hope you're all doing well, too. Okay. This was a good move. I assume my position's bad and I've kind of misplayed everything or something or other. Opponent's like very, very careful not to castle, huh? I need my knight covering here. I've been wanting to play queen g4 through the knight for like 5 to 10 moves and not been able to, so maybe we'll eventually bring her out through f4. I don't have any repertoire, no. Okay, this defends the piece. Probably part of my plan. I'm not playing well this game, but neither is my opponent, so there's still hope. Like, they don't seem like they especially know what they want to do or should do, etc. A little bouncing back and forth from me there. 15 seconds, yikes. That's probably not it. There must have been something there, but I didn't know what. Still don't know what. I just hung everything. Oh, there's still the 2-second increment. So I shouldn't resign, even though the game's completely done. All right. Just a little warm-up game. That was just not good at all in any way. If they went b4, I would play a b4, c b4, and then retreat my bishop, yellow. And so the pawn on c5 would no longer be attacking whatchamacallit. My pawn on d4, right? This opening looks pretty pleasant for white. I mean for black, sorry. For me. My position. Black's position. Looks excellent here. Guess we'll drop back. This knight maneuver might be good, or maybe I can even play f5, and it'll prove not good. We shall see. I was mainly trying to play the move e5 here. This move is everything I don't want to play. But I don't see how else to defend this, and it'll keep me playing a little bit faster, hopefully. Let's just keep going like this, huh? White's position's obviously crummy, right? Threatening rook takes f2 here. That's how bad White's position is. Like against bishop d2 or something. Just rook f2. Alright, they saw it. I mean, honestly, if they saw that rook f2 threat, they're pretty good at chess, period. What's that about? That's a weird move. They want queen d5 at the cost of preventing rook f2? Wow. Wild. There's got to be something I can do, because I just don't believe that. I don't know, I'll sack an exchange. God, this player is really fast. This bishop's not very good, so I almost hope that white takes this. God, they're so much faster than me and so tricky. All the little threats every move. Ah, oh, queen c3. If I were white, I'd just play like king g2 probably. That's not what I would have played as white. I should look at that game because that game was really unusual. Whoops, sorry, not like that. At what point, Foos? Okay, computer says white could have been okay with knight takes e4. No, now it's starting to change its mind about it. Never mind. Instead of down a knight. Well, queen takes d3 is how white lost a knight, and that was clearly by choice. White had a million moves possible at that point. I thought king g2, right? Avoiding any knight f3s and... Okay, e6 was correct here. There was nothing better. That's true. He made like 7 tricky threats. And honestly, all I did was I secretly defended one of his tricky threats, which was queen d3, with this idea of knight f3 check. All it was I like seemed to blunder one of his tricky threats. And he went for it. The previous tricky threats I had sort of like more obviously responded to and defended against. Okay, computer agrees I've got a big advantage after this. So either recapture is good for black. Okay, yeah, so I can show you bishop d2. The idea would be to go rook f2, king f2, then just cut the king off and play this. That's what I was thinking of. Although the computer says there's a refutation. It says rook f1, creating an escape square, and there's not enough of an attack. So my whole idea was wrong. But that's what I had in mind. And I think my opponent saw the same thing because he plays this move here, a very weakening move, but the point is to prevent the queen here. There's no other reason he would play g3 other than that he saw this idea and was scared of it too, right? Because otherwise this move's just terrible, right? It's really inviting all kinds of... Well, he just doesn't want to make any pawn moves on the king side, right? Period. Right? I've got the file, I've got the space. His pieces aren't really over there. Now, here, I wanted to play e5, but I wasn't sure about knight d5. Right? But I had like the easiest possible like crushing move here, which somehow I didn't see. And it's really sad. I put the rook here to double rooks, but look at this move. Queen f7, attacking f2, defending d5 extra. And black wins instantly. Right? It forces something like rook d1 or rook f1 or knight d1. One of these kind of moves. Right? They both look terrible, so I don't know which we should particularly play for white. And then we can play e5, threatening bishop h3, and pawn takes d4. And this d pawn's protected by the queen. And you just roll over. I'm not making a threat to win in one move, but it's completely winning. I totally agree with the computer there. So I missed that. The other way I could win here would have been knight a5, kicking the queen off the d pawn. And then when the queen moves to, c2 or a3 or wherever, then you play e5. And again, e5 is just such a good move that if I can play it without losing anything, it's an overwhelming advantage for black. Okay, so I played this dumb move. This happened. Now I should play e5. I did. Bishop g5 happened. The computer also wants to sack the exchange. Crazy. I felt really not confident about my move. Oh, but this wasn't how the computer wanted to sack the exchange, so I should feel not confident. The computer says take the pawn over here. Takes, d-e5, bishop e5, and just play like this. This prioritizes being able to defend the pawn because we've got bishop e6, and we're stopping white from blocking the f-file because we've got control over it, instead of bringing our knight to attack. We just stop that. It's very positional. It's very, very positional. Just saying the pawn and the minor piece are as good as a rook here, and overall it lets black accentuate their advantages towards the king side. That's very, very hard to judge. So I did this, which it says is fine-ish. And now I really wanted to play rook f4 as well. And the computer says rook f4 is a small advantage for black, but best is this move, which I played. Best is this move, which I played. Oh my god, I didn't believe in what I was doing. These are all the best moves, and black has a small advantage. Wow. For some reason, the move queen f7 is winning here. Okay, king g7 equally winning. It doesn't care. c4. Now, knight e5 is best, winning. Huh. Or queen e5. I did this, which is a mistake. We get here. Huh, it says even against king g2, I'm still winning. I was going to play dc4. I just didn't realize it was good. Why can't they take it? Black's just gotten too strong here, huh? Wow. I did not have this kind of confidence in my position. That's good to know. That's good to know. It's very, very unusual, tricky position / game. All right, let's get another one. Look at those pre-moves, Jesse. You got the Vancouver defense. Wow. That doesn't happen every day. All right, so white's sacking a pawn. They have some play or compensation for that pawn. But it's also playable for black. Take this one too. Thank you. All right, so there would be persistent compensation for white. Because it's hard to fix this stuff, hard to find a place for my king. Not much I can do. But I just have to have faith. I gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. I gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. Because you gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. Baby, I've studied all the games you play. Before this river becomes an ocean. To 2 minutes. So far, I haven't flagged this game. Whoops. Yep. Okay. Now what? Now what, David? Now what? Oh, well, now I'm just lost. Doesn't matter what I try to do from here. Ugh, I'm gonna have to learn how to play this line somehow at some point. Whoa! Didn't see that savagery coming either. Wow, this guy's playing a hell of a game here. This chap. Wow, nice move too. Hell of a game. Hell of a game. Beautiful. Bravo to them. All right. I've had this exact position previously. Is this best? Wow, it's just losing. So why did I think this was okay? Oh, it's just lost the whole way through. Interesting. Queen h3 was beautiful. f5 was similarly losing. F5 was winning about as much as Queen h3, but Queen h3, wow. Like that person was seeing everything. You know. Maybe I need to stop playing this line as black if it's that bad. Or I need to look it up. with a stronger chess engine instead of the one here on chess.com. All right, let's. I mean, that's twice. That's twice I've lost in this line as black. So time to. God, this is like a really dangerous line for black. Looking at the moves the computer's suggesting to try and like survive. No bueno, man. Oh, I can see why these people are playing this in blitz. It's super hard to play. Dang. I don't even know what to do about this line, even with supercomputer help. Well, I mean, Scotty, my opponent played a great game that game, right? Lots of nice moves. May only get one more game myself before it's time to teach. Let's try to get one game that's not so crazy, right? Can't we get one boring game, please? Like one Queen's Gambit declined, or... There we go. This is what I'm talking about. Queen d2, bishop b4. Yeah, title Tuesday, switch to 5-0. shoot, does that really work? Yeah, we'll just keep playing simple moves. Okay, it's not a good position for me. Understand. Okay, 2-pawn down endgame. dabbling into that c5 eventually. Ugh. Very careful start to the game for white. I don't mind giving up that bishop, you know. But I'm still thinking about positional decisions for like 20 seconds now and then. So that has to stop. Have a hard time doing much here. Uh-oh. I may have blundered a little something there. Maybe white had d5 right there after b5, I think. Rook a5 was just wrong. I'd seen the whole knight d2 move long ago, by the way. It's just how I blunder, you know? I kind of want to take this. Let's just do it. What could go wrong? This. Oh my god! Bishop takes d6. Nice. No. I'm busy today. No lunch. That was too bad. That was really stupid. Walked right into a 1200 move. Yes, I'm coaching cash today. It'll be in about 3 hours, Rogues. I think I've already looked at your game earlier. I have this strong feeling like I could play better than I've been playing so far today, and wanting to, you know, play another game in order to win a game and get better and stuff. But I'm going to be interrupted here by a lesson. Has my calculation ability or pattern recognition gotten slower? I mean, pattern recognition I think is about the same, Dabo, but calculation is definitely slowed a lot over time. Maybe pattern recognition with it too, I don't know. I mean, this is like a, you know, once every 10 years kind of blunder. You know, it's a rather embarrassing moment for us to to be sitting on here.
Hello, David.
Hey. How's it going?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Yeah, okay. Okay.
All right.
Congrats, Luke. 4.5 out of 5 is a great result. Congratulations on that. All right. So Francisco. Obviously, I've read your emails. So I hear that basically you don't feel good about your play right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see and understand that. It's a normal up and down of chess. I should have sent you my other video much sooner because I realized from the very first day you had that quote about how losing at chess is more painful than winning at chess is pleasant, right? Which Andras called out. And I think that's true for most people, but I think it's actually wrong, right? Like,
Oh, really?
It's true that people are like that, but it's not how people should be, right? So we shouldn't just accept it. I mean, when you see that, when you hear that, of course, you're very, most chess players will have a knowing grin, like, oh, yeah, like, I understand, I know the feeling, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, it shouldn't be that way, right? Like, the point of games isn't to be miserable. If you think about the function in human society of games, it's not to be miserable. It's not to despair. I was playing a game, not chess, with my partner last night, and if we sat down to play that game knowing that one of us would be more upset at the end than one of us was happy, then, like, from the very beginning, I mean, why would we ever sit down to do that, right?
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. So, I think that while that is true for a lot of people, and I've noticed it all my life, I would go to chess tournaments and I would look around and I'd see 5 happy people and 95 miserable people torturing themselves. Even the people getting second place in the tournament with 4 wins and 1 loss would be sometimes going like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I made this mistake. When am I going to win a tournament? It's just nobody's happy, right? So what's going on? Well, I think that we could change that if we were a little bit smarter. A lot of chess players are people who are either smart or would like to be smart. Like to use their brains, but to very little avail, if they're going to sit around playing a game and being unhappy when other people out in the world are facing much more difficult situations than the fact that they, blundered a pawn in a way that they've seen once before and they should have known better. Absolutely. And oh, my poor pawn, it just makes absolutely no sense. So if they were half as smart or even a tenth as smart as they would like to be, I think chess players would just get over this stuff. I mean, before worrying about the next variation of the Queen's Gambit accepted that they don't know some detail on, I mean, they should just figure out, like, why am I having a great life and then sitting here being miserable about it? So I'm sorry I didn't address that, like, more clearly sooner with you. But
That's all right.
But clearly you really need to learn to make a mistake and still be happy. I mean, because chess is great. It's super fun, and sometimes your opponents will play like a great move and beat you, right? And I mean, if you can't be happy about that for your opponents, then what are we doing,
Yeah, I mean, I've wondered the same thing myself. I mean, which is why I have actually considered to, just dropping it. Which I
Sure.
mean, one day I might, not before the 10th, so don't worry about that. But well,
Yeah.
actually, I think the tournament is on the 9th. But yeah.
For you, yeah.
Anyway,
Yours is on the 9th.
but yeah, but anyway, like Yeah, I mean, I have wondered about all these things definitely, and I agree with you on that. I mean, but I really find it very difficult to not feel absolutely horrendous after losing, and I think it makes a lot of sense because I mean, it makes sense from the perspective what you say. People shouldn't feel bad about losing is true. I mean, because it is just a game, and but the problem is that once you just step into the direction of preparing yourself in the in the least, like let's say that you solve, I don't know, 10 puzzles,
Mm-hmm.
then it's already not just a game for you. Like you're, it's a game, but
You're
but
invested.
you're putting some expectations into that game, and
Sure.
then once you do that, then of course you're setting yourself up for misery once you lose. So I think that's basically what happens.
For sure. That's a very, very good point. Once you start investing in the thing, it's more than a game. So we can say something really simple like it's a game, you should be having fun, but we also have to understand, yeah, it's more than a game, right? So that's a very good point. However, does not it does not mean that you should be miserable, right? It means it's more complicated than what I said, but it doesn't mean that oh yeah, that's right, we should be miserable or we should all quit, right? So
Hmm.
let's maybe look at a game together for a moment. Let's see, maybe this one here is the one. Yeah, okay. Here's the game I've just played, and
Wait, I can't see
I'm
your
gonna try and
screen.
send it to you in the chat here.
Ah, okay.
So click on that game and tell me if it loads up a game with a fellow named Neat Elo as white.
Oh, it was the FM. Yeah, I watched the ending of this game on your stream
Okay,
just
you've seen
now.
this game, so even easier to say. Okay, so you've seen this game, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Uh-huh.
they play this move, Rook B5, right? Sacrificing the Rook
Yeah.
on move
I
20.
saw that.
Nice move.
Yeah.
Oof. Right? And then Rook
Yep.
takes D5. If the pawn takes, there's Queen B5 check. If the Queen takes, Knight F6
Mm-hmm.
wins the Queen. And if pawn takes, then they have this Queen H3 move. Amazing. Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't white be happier about this game than black is upset about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of game. I mean, when you lose to this kind of stuff, like I wouldn't feel too bad, I think.
Not too bad.
I
Okay.
mean, it has happened to me, play but like losing to like very well played games by the opponent where I just didn't, shoot myself in the foot or didn't do like,
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous stuff. Then,
Yeah.
then I don't feel too bad. I mean,
Okay.
it still doesn't feel great to lose because yeah, but I don't feel so bad. Like I feel terrible, like really terrible when I just throw from a winning position like in a ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
fashion or when I just, do some really stupid stuff like blunder mating one, for instance, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like in those cases, I feel pretty terrible. Or if I have like a super big streak of losses. But yes.
Okay. So that's a start. It feels like you can appreciate a little bit that your opponent played well. Other chess players have to
Hmm.
have their moments too, right? Just like us, Francisco. We've got the games where we play some
Yeah,
good
yeah,
moves
of
and we
course.
feel good. And all the other chess players
Hmm.
out there, especially those who are investing time in it, they deserve to have some of those good moments too, right? And it's
Yeah.
not always like one to one. The player who's put in the most work always gets to play the best game and like they deserve it, blah blah blah. There's a mix of things, right? It's over time, it's over hundreds of games. The people who've put in the most work will probably do the best. Um, but there's not like a one to one immediate justice in every single game in that sense. But we know that in general, most of our opponents, like if you're over 1200, most of your opponents have invested in the game too, right? They've put in hundreds of hours and studied stuff. So,
Hmm.
so the
Yeah.
first thing is, are we agreed that they deserve to have great games and good moments? And, sometimes we have to be the person to lose to them for them to show the good stuff that they've been working
Yeah,
on
yeah,
and
of
learning
course.
and so forth. You're okay with that. So that's a great start. Now you said it hurts less, but you didn't say you could enjoy it, right? I would push us even further. You should enjoy playing a game like this one that I played against Neat Elo, right? He absolutely smashed me. Some cool moves, reminders of some patterns. Obviously, like in a 3-minute game, I'm blundering, so to speak, or I'm missing. moves, which I would see in a classical game. Okay, in a classical game, I would see basically every move he played coming. But still, it's like a reminder. It's flashy, it's fun, it's cool, it's entertaining, right? But then the other thing is, like, this fellow's actually taught me something about this line. It's the second person to blitz out this sequence of moves in the opening against me, with the pawn sacrifice into this offer of the bishop trade on d3. And the first time I faced this, I think I took on c4 instead of on d3. And my opponent took on g6, and then I recaptured with the knight, which kind of lets my bishop out from f8. And it's not clear what white has for the pawn at first glance. In fact, it's two pawns this way, right? Because they don't even recapture on c4. And I've got a great square on d5 for my knight. All my pieces can move. They're not really counter-threatening anything. So the first game, you know, I got this position as black against somebody maybe 10 days ago. And then again, I lost pretty badly that game because there was something difficult about playing this position in blitz with your king on e8, not really clear where to go. I think at some point I played maybe like knight b6, king d7, trying to untangle my king towards the queen side where I've got lots of pawns. And white could play queen f3, threatening to come into f7. And even if my king runs away, the queen on f7 is too strong. So after they played queen f3, I was just stuck. I had to move my king back to e8 to defend the f-pawn. And then I just sat there. And they didn't have direct threats immediately, but I didn't have any way to improve my position. The knight on g6 was just kind of stuck. The pawn on h5 is always hanging. I can't really defend it. You know, I couldn't really do anything. It was interesting. It made me think a little bit. And then I played a second game today, you know, a week later. And this time I play a different move order. I take on d3 so that my knight won't be stuck on g6. Then I get the tempo on c4 trade. Instead of getting a second extra pawn, I get a tempo. And I can immediately bring a knight to d5. And now my kingside pawns are a little more flexible. I could play g6 or f6 at some point if I need to. Again, I get crushed. What? So I go and I can't find any better moves for black. I don't understand exactly what's wrong. I've started to feel partly the problem for black, right? That I can't ever successfully castle kingside or queenside, which on its own doesn't necessarily mean you lose. Like, I don't need to castle every game. I could be safe in the center. But in this case, I also have no way to connect my rooks to get them to open files. All my pieces are just... Oh, thank you so much. All my pieces are just, you know, passive. And I check with the computer, and the computer says, yes, the position's just bad for black. You know, each of these games I was losing fairly early on, and the sequences of moves by which the computer would be able to, you know, draw if it had to play black are just like mind-boggling, impossible. It's like 20 only moves in a row. It's just the human equivalent of a terrible position. So on top of my opponent playing a great game, my opponent also taught me something. Like, I'm finally understanding a new chess concept here about how these positions are so difficult to play for black. So I can actually... That's adding to the enjoyment of getting destroyed, right? Is not just did the opponent play some cool moves. You know, not only does it remind me of some little tactical ideas, but also I've actually learned something about chess here. So there's like a process whereby, you know, I'm learning new things. I could play some of these positions as white in the future. I could try and pick a different position to play as black in the future. You know, maybe I could take on something like this in classical chess, but in blitz, even if I really prepare it, I know this position is just too hard for me to play. So it's all just part of the chess process of studying, and I play this game and I want to play more games. You know, and when I played the game, I wanted to review it. After I'd reviewed it, I wanted to play the next game. You know, it's just a happy cycle. I think you don't play chess just to win and have the feeling of being a better person than your opponent. I think you play chess also because you find it's kind of interesting to sort of look at the moves and think about the moves, see some new moves, stuff like that. Oh my goodness, Nilo or Nilo is in the chat. Where did you come from, Nilo? Greetings and welcome. You're super sharp today. Cool, yeah. That's what I felt. What's this flag? Where are you even from? Hong Kong. Wow. Maybe, but in Hong Kong it's like 4 a.m. or something. So that might just be a flag you like. Well, you're helping me with your great game today to try to teach my student here that you can lose a game and it can be great. You can lose a game and it can be awesome. So look, Francisco, not only am I a person who would have loved to play great moves and win a game, but Nilo is a person who would have loved to play a great game, did play a great game. They're feeling good about it, you know? I think that here, you may believe me, that Nilo enjoyed winning the game more than I suffered. In fact, I didn't really suffer, but you may or may not believe that. But what do you think? Are we seeing an exception?
Yeah, I mean, you don't take your losses too bad. I mean, you definitely take them a lot better than other people. Still, I mean, like I said, this is a pretty. I mean, this is a very good game by Nilo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like to get a better example, I would have to see a game where you're like completely winning, and then all of a sudden you blunder like no checkmate or something.
Okay, how about this game?
Then I can see it. Like,
how about this game here? My last game, right before you came on. Were you watching that one too, against Mes Serpents Sauvages?
Watched. I think I watched it. Yeah.
Mes Serpents Sauvages, European Union. Wow. They speak French, but
yeah,
their nation is Europe, not France.
Wait, you can set Europe as your flag here?
Apparently. Oh. I can try and send you the game as well through our chat.
I can look it up here on chess.com, but yeah, the page is taking a little bit to load.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to load up your profile, and here I should be able to see it. But yeah, sometimes chess.com takes a bit of time.
Yeah. Wow, chat, we're really lucky that I played like such crap today. Because if I'd won all my games, it would have been harder for me to make these points to Francisco. But luckily, I've played this morning about the worst I've ever played. All right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. If you can send me a link, because for some reason this is not like loading.
I sent you a link in the chat. I don't know if that link worked or not.
Ah, you already sent me? Oh, okay, you already sent me. Yeah. Okay, let me try to open it up from here.
This smoothie is great. Wow. This is another hot tip for doing better in chess, Francisco, and everybody else. If you eat like healthy stuff, it's really good for you. Sometimes when you drink a smoothie with a lot of salad in it, it tastes pretty bitter. But this one's pretty good. After I've drunk this smoothie, I'll probably be capable of winning a chess game again. So far today, I wasn't.
Do you have anything to eat before you play the other games?
I had not yet, no.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I woke up playing on an empty stomach, not a great idea, bro.
Yeah, and I woke up tired today and kind of sluggish, and I almost didn't want to play because I knew that I would be tired and slow and bad, or sometimes, quote unquote, I mean, you're going to lose every game, as you said in your email, right? You don't really know, but you have like a suspicion, right? So I suspected I would be kind of sluggish in my play today. And obviously, if I wanted to play well, sleeping and eating would be really helpful components. But I thought, I got an hour free. I could play a few games. I really wanted to play chess yesterday and didn't have any time to play chess. So I thought, even if I'm going to play badly today, I would still like to play a few games of chess. Okay.
Yeah, now I was able to pull up the.
You found this game? All right.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to load it.
I think this is almost not exaggerating, Francisco, but look at the last move of this game where I go king f8. Allowing rook takes d5.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean.
No exaggeration.
I mean, for you, international master, this is like, oh, what a blunder did I make?
I mean, yeah,
for me, this would be like every Monday,
Sure, but truly, without exaggeration, Francisco, this is a mistake I might make like once every 10 years. I mean, it's really a bad move. Okay. Really a bad move, right? So if there's something you could be upset about, I know I wasn't completely winning in the position where I blundered, right? It was just an equal position, not a winning position, right? But the level of this blunder is pretty terrible and egregious, right? Okay, I wished I didn't play the move king f8, The whole time, when we started our lesson, I was obviously still calculating what I could have done instead in the game, right? So I was, obviously talking to other people, and this is something about me and maybe most other chess players, but after I've played a chess game, and then I go about my life, I'm actually still thinking about my chess game. So I'll talk to people, and I'm like, how was your day? And they're like, oh, my daughter threw up, and I tell them, oh, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry your kid's sick. But the whole time in my head, it's not that I don't care about their daughter or their life or something about, something that they're telling me about. But the whole time in my head, at the same time as we're talking, right, I'm calculating rook a8, h4, f6, rook takes e6, king f7, rook e8, rook e8, rook e8, king e8, king f1, b4, c takes b4, knight takes b4, a takes b4, c3, bc3, a3. And I'm saying, okay, so even down a pawn, there could be a queenside breakthrough in that endgame. I'm calculating that, and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe they just go lodge their bishop, over on c5 to stop any breakthrough. Maybe the position's just equal. Even with this crazy, but I'm like, what a cool idea to sack that pawn. Also in this position, instead of rook e8, right, white should play king f1 so that when I trade rooks, their king comes over. But I've also recognized this position's unlosable for black. If I weren't trying to win, it's good enough, right? Knight on d5, pawns on f5 and g6. I can take my hand off the keyboard, right, and just walk away, and it's a draw. Okay, so we're talking about stuff with people, and I'm still calculating my games, of course, all the time, right? And I think that's probably true for some chess players as well, other than me. So, king f8, egregious blunder. I wish I didn't play king f8. I wish I played out this endgame. It looks fun. It looks interesting, I wonder if I played really well, if I could put pressure on white, even though I kind of believe white can draw the endgame. I also think the knight's better than the bishop, and I'm curious if I can put some pressure on an opponent, and make life hard for them. So I'm wondering about it. I'm wishing I could have played out the whole game. But it doesn't spoil the experience of playing the entire game. The entire game still had all kinds of interesting questions for me, right? Like, I wondered how good or bad is my position out of the opening. Because I gave up the bishop pair, and I wasn't able to play b5, b4, right? So I'm just curious, what does the computer think the evaluation is? Let me see. Plus 0.2, I think it's saying, right? Or something like that. So that's interesting for me to know. that white could really have an advantage here.
Wait. You mean the evaluation after
Sort
rook
of
e5,
as
or
I
do you
came out of
mean
the
after you
opening.
play something else?
At the end of the game, of course, I've lost with rook d5. But out of the opening, it's interesting to see the computer thinks white has an advantage. I kind of suspected that during the game, but I wasn't sure. So it's a chance for me to sort of confirm an evaluation with myself there.
Wait, but which move are you looking at? That you say
Around move
plus
12
2
or
in your
13. It's anywhere between move 10 and 15 probably. I don't think it's really dependent on any one move.
Wait, plus 2?
Plus 0.2.
Ah, 0.2. Okay. I don't know. I thought you were saying plus 2, and I was like,
Oh, no. It's nothing so
like,
terrible.
maybe I don't know. Maybe you were using like a different engine or something.
Yeah. No, I was just, I suspected the position's a little bit worse for black since I'm not able to achieve the b5, b4 break, and then white's got the bishop pair. The bishop pair's not amazing yet, but I figured white can always play e4 eventually, and if I can never play b4, does white have a little advantage? And the computer says yes. So that's very interesting. Then there's another random question I thought of during the game, so I'm going to go look that up. It's right here. After they get castled, I was curious about b4, sacrificing the pawn, and then let's say they go a takes b4, knight takes b4, pawn takes b4, bishop takes b4. Rook to d1, rook to a2. I was curious. Like, it seems like you shouldn't be able to sack a piece for a pawn in an endgame. But I was curious, like, how easy or how clear is this position? It is interesting, Francisco. There's only one winning move for white. That helps me calibrate, what I think of this idea. Oh, sorry, you might not know exactly what move I'm talking about. I apologize.
I mean, I kind of get an idea. I suppose you mean like after you played
let's
b5
say on move 15. On move 15, I played a simple plan with knight to d7. But
instead you mean b4.
Instead of knight d7, I could play b4, and then when they take,
and then sack the knight on
I
b4.
sack the knight,
and then with the bishop you hit the knight.
Take with the bishop, hitting the knight, and the rook's behind it. And then rook d1 for white would be a simple move, and then rook a2, trying to get a second pawn. So that was the position that I kind of wondered about during the game. My instincts told me it's not good. Don't spend a minute trying to calculate it. Right? But it was something that I was like vaguely curious about. If I go back and answer some of these questions for myself, because I'm interested, I might remember it, and also it'll help me to not waste all my time thinking about it during a game. I can just look at it later on, but I don't have to do things during a game that my instinct tells me is not going to work. And I don't even have to waste my time on it. But very interestingly, after rook a2, the computer says there's only one winning move for white. And that is to play knight takes c4. Pawn takes c4, bishop takes c4, rook takes b2, rook b1. And basically, white wins the pawn on b7 at the end and has one extra pawn plus the bishop pair.
Okay.
Only way for white to win it. So that gives me a sense of like just how insanely bad or good is this idea, right? It's kind of insanely bad, but interestingly based on one detail there, which involves sacking the piece back. So there is maybe room to play this kind of sacrifice before. Also, I thought that after b4, white would have to take with the c pawn. Because if they take with the a pawn, I don't have to sack my piece. I could just play rook a2 and play the position down a pawn. But actually, the computer says it's better to take with the a pawn and says that if white plays c takes b4, black can just play b5 and play the position down a pawn because Now white's plan of e4 doesn't work anymore because the d-pawn is too weak without the c3 pawn. So black can just play b5 and say the pawn I'm down is the pawn on b2 or a3, and white doesn't really have any plan anywhere to take over the game. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that sort of side of the pawn sack. So that answers another interesting question I had. Now, let's check out this knight a4 plan that I did, and I'm curious how good or bad is the position after I played knight a4. Knight a4. Okay, so the computer says white should play rook b1 and keep the bishop pair. That's amazing. I was wondering about that a lot during the game, Francisco. When I brought the knight to a4, I was wondering, white could give up the really good bishop for the knight so they don't have to defend b2. Or they could basically give up a whole rook for the knight and have the rook babysit the pawn on b2. But I felt like white's light squared bishop was so good that if they traded on a4, I thought they didn't really have their advantage anymore. And the computer says, yes, white should keep the bishop at the cost of having a rook just sit on b1.
So this bishop is good because you, at some point, you will release the tension in the center with e4, and then you will have it looking at in the long diagonal there, right?
Right. The bishop is good for a few reasons. One reason is it covers white's potential weaknesses at d3 and b3, and it could always trade for the knight on a4 later if you need to free your rook. Another reason is it aims at h7, so black's got to keep that pawn covered somehow, which requires somebody to defend it, or to, keep tactics ready, like g6. Also, it could eventually attack the weak pawn on d5. The computer actually said it's slightly better for me to trade on e4 as soon as white plays e4, instead of allowing the pawn takes d5, pawn takes d5 position, where white has the d5 pawn to attack eventually. So the best position white can get, crazily, is to trade opening the e file and then put the rook on b1, giving up the b file but keeping the bishop pair. And black's knight is tying down white's rook, and yet white has a big advantage. Huh. Very cool. I was wondering about that as well during the game. So this game went so terribly for me, but, there's still some interesting stuff to learn. Most of the game I played fine. Let me see if I was right to take on e4 when I did. I was pretty sure that I was. That it was time to take. Now the computer says here it's about equal to take or to wait. Okay. So I take. And now I played what I thought was a big mistake, rook a5. Oh, no, not yet. Next move, I guess. And the computer says, yes, rook a5, big mistake. It's good to know. I should have just played knight e7, knight d5 like I did in the game, a move later. Okay, and now the last really important question about the game, Francisco, is should I have traded my bishop for the knight or waited? Because I thought I could always just trade that knight later, right, and play around with my pieces. Could just play rook a8.
Yeah, I heard you say that during the game.
Yeah. But the computer says, yeah, just trade it. Just trade it. Okay. Great. So I got all my answers. Fun. Can't wait to play more games in that structure with my new knowledge. I think I remember some of that stuff now. Let's see. First of all, that position is good for white. The best plan for white early on is to grab a bunch of space kingside with g4. Since black's got space on the queen side, white played for the basic plan e4, which is what I would have played as well. Before studying this game, I would have played that simple plan with e4. But if black responds well, it's not a huge advantage for white. Black can always trade on e4 when white plays e4, and then put a knight on d5, and it's a pretty solid position for black. So white should grab space with g4 first, push the black pieces back, then expand all the kingside pawns. Yeah, that's cool. So now I feel like I would know how to make life tough for black with this position as white, and I would also know how to defend it better. And I'm playing more and more d4 games lately, so this is interesting knowledge for me. I'm glad I played that game, Francisco, even though I played the worst move that I've played in years. So you played some classical chess this weekend, huh?
Yeah, I did.
That sounds really fun.
Mm.
And you got some more
Yeah,
Najdorfs?
its fun part. It has its fun part. Mainly what I like about over the board chess is very simple. I what I like about over the board is very simple. I just like grabbing the pieces and touching the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Basically that gives me some fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the games themselves were anything but spectacular. The only game that I won was a nice one. I like that one.
Okay. Can you show me the game you won?
And uh, yeah, I happen to have that PGN. I don't have the PGN in digital form for the games that I lost yet. I haven't yet
Okay.
plugged them
I
into the
mean,
computer, but this one I liked.
yeah. I mean, you can also just read moves off a score sheet to me, and I can play them on a board and so forth. So
Oh yeah,
we
sure
have lots
thing.
of options. But
Yeah, I
but
do
yeah.
have the score sheets for the others, but yeah. I mean, one of the games that I lost, I actually somewhat enjoyed, but I mean, it was easy to say that because I was playing against a national master, so of course I went there not with much expectation to win.
Yeah, it's an honor to play a master.
Yeah, it is. And especially if it's the only master in the whole tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of surprised that I got to play him. Like I didn't think that was going to be a thing. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, I have to copy paste this here. Let me send you here. So I'll just send you the PGN here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. This is your first classical OTB tournament here.
Yeah. And this was my third game in the tournament. Well, third, technically like third, but it's the second game because the first game my opponent didn't show up, and yeah, the second game I lost.
Okay.
So it would be my second classical game.
Nice. Did you know opening theory here, or you just found good moves?
I knew a tiny bit. I only knew up um let's see, b3, queen b6. Yeah, like right around queen a5, c3. Until then, I felt like I was still within book. Then the rest was just me. Because I had right before the that round, I already knew I was going to play against this person, and I saw that he played the French. So I was like, well, what could he play against me? I didn't see that he played this against knight c3, but I saw like he played the French against someone who played the advanced variation against him. So I was like, okay, well, I'll have to uh, figure out what can he play if I play knight c3, and then I looked up like a little bit to see what stuff could cause me trouble,
Mm-hmm.
and so I looked into ways that they could put some pressure in the center, like they usually do on the d4 pawn. So yeah, this stuff until c3, I had it figured out.
Oh wow, this a3 move is cool. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was super happy about that move. Yeah, I was very proud about it. Even before I checked with the engine, like after the game, I was I even told my wife, like I told her, wow, I played one move that I'm very proud of in this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was that one.
Little pawn move on the side, but that is quite a technique. Beautiful. Woo! Wow. You can almost mate the king with your pawns here. Oh! Wow, you basically did mate that king with those pawns. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he let me play it too. He was a really good sport, that guy.
All right. Do you think he was miserable?
I mean, he didn't look very happy, but I mean, he was, like I said, he was a very good sport. So actually, like, definitely has a lot more self restraint than I do. Me and the first game, I was going to get mated in two or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, technically mate in three, but probably mate in three if you like, I don't know, give up your queen immediately or something.
Right.
I don't know. Like it was just like a immediate mate, and yeah, I didn't let my opponent play it out. I was like, yeah, shake hands and that's it.
Fine. That's fine. You're allowed to resign.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not bad sportsmanship to resign. You're allowed to. But wow, that was
Yeah,
nice.
also I resigned pretty fast. I was like, I looked a little bit to see if there was anything, and then
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing.
Whew.
The good thing is that that first game I won, I lost. I didn't feel so bad about it in the end because my opponent proceeded to win the whole tournament, so without losing any game. So I'm like, okay, well, I lost to the goat of the event, so
Mm-hmm.
not too bad. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well that's a great game. Um what I something I've done to help inspire myself to play well and believe in myself is I've like picked out some of my favorite games over time and kept a little, collection or file of them. And then before a tournament, I can sort of click through them quickly or play through them on a board even nicer. Do you have a chessboard at home?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah,
have
so you
a
can
very
actually touch the
beautiful
pieces
chessboard.
at
Yeah.
home too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just play out the game for yourself, before you start your next event, your next tournament or whatever. And just play out the moves and uh, just remind yourself of what's the fun part of chess, what's the part you like and all that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to show me one bishop c4 Najdorf game since we've worked on that a little bit once before? I can
Yeah,
just see
I would like to.
whether
I
you're
would
getting an
like
okay
to share
position
that
or
with
not.
you. The problem is, since I don't have this in like, well, yeah, maybe I can like read the score sheet and we
Mm-hmm.
can both like plug it in because I mean, I also need to like look at it naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I have a picture of the score sheet here. Let's see if it's readable. Okay. First, I will show you the first one because I mean, actually, I think I can show you the two of them because the first one was the one where I got mated and it was ridiculously stupid and short. So I think I can perfectly show you both. Okay. So Najdorf, bishop c4, e6.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, yeah. Let me also play it in. I'm just telling you, but I actually am not playing it in myself. Yeah. Okay, so here, c4, e6. Then he played a3. Yeah. By the way, this is the
Oh, wow.
this is the same guy I played before. Remember a3?
Yeah, so you
It's the
played
same
him
guy.
in the Rapid tournament a week before,
Yeah.
and then
Now
in the
in the
Classical
classical.
tournament a week later.
Yeah, and this time in classical I lost even worse than in rapid.
Okay.
But yeah, but, yeah, this for a classical game is extremely embarrassing. But yeah, well, I mean, it would be embarrassing if I were a good, decent player. But bishop e7 after a3, then castles, queen c7, bishop a2. Wait, what? Oh no, don't tell me I don't tell me I wrote this wrong. Oh, I forgot. Wait, there was. Yeah, of course. Wait, what? What did I not play here? Yeah, I forgot to put. Yeah, never mind. I had forgotten to plug some moves into my board. Jesus. Okay, so yeah, bishop a2, castles. Mm, then king h1. So again, like he played before. Knight c6. Um, f4, b5,
Hmm.
and f5. Knight d4, queen d4. So this is to let you know that I do remember what you tell me. Like I remember you told me that at some point I needed to trade those knights, so I
Hmm.
did.
Yeah.
And then e5,
Okay.
queen d3, bishop b7, bishop g5, rook a c8, rook a
Hang on.
d1.
Bishop g5. Let's stop there for 1 second. Bishop
Yeah,
g5. I'm just going to
yeah,
calculate knight e4 for a moment. Knight e4. Bishop e7. Knight c5. Queen takes d6. Knight e4. Bishop e7. Knight c3. Bishop d6. Okay. We can keep going. So after bishop g5, what did you play?
I played rook a c8.
Great.
And my opponent replied rook a d1.
Okay.
Then I played rook f d8, uh, bishop f6, bishop f6. And yeah, we are reaching the dreadful moment. Rook d2 and bishop g5. And here is where I got hit by f6.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I looked at this for a while and I was like, yeah, I'm not convinced. But I also played really terribly, obviously. So bishop d2, queen d2. And here is where I made a huge mistake. Rook d7. And yeah, I get mate after queen g3. No, queen g,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, queen g5.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, that was a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty embarrassing to be honest. I mean, it was an even worse loss than when I played in Rapid, and in Rapid I had 10 minutes. Like here I had a century to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And the worst part is that before I played Rook D7, I was precisely, I mean, well, before I took the Rook actually on D2,
Yeah.
I was precisely looking at like ways in which he can pose mate threats with the Queen, and I was like, yeah, maybe after Bishop D2, maybe he can ignore it, he can go like Queen G3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, here I just missed Queen G5. Just ridiculous, yeah. But yeah, that happened.
Okay. Yeah, it looks fine. Looks like an interesting game. Do you know?
If you think so, man.
Yeah.
This is a lot worse than your King of Fate plunder. Like if I had the plunder King of Fate, I would be pretty happy about my performance.
Okay.
But I mean, this one is just horrible, and this wasn't blitz. Like this was just classical game. I mean,
Okay.
granted, it was my first classical game, but
Yeah. Well, but it's going to continue your learning on this variation, right? So what should we play as black?
yeah, good question. I still haven't thought about it much, but I mean,
Yeah.
definitely something that doesn't allow Queen G5.
I'm looking at the position
Probably, I
after
mean,
f6 right now.
F6. Yeah, I think from a practical perspective, obviously in the game I didn't know that they could just sack the rook.
Hmm.
But now that I know that technically they can sack the rook, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have played Bishop G5 to be honest, because I mean it's like setting myself up for trouble. When you're grabbing an exchange that's not really winning. It's just like your opponent has plenty of compensation. Then if I knew the evaluation of the position, I wouldn't go for it.
Hmm. Well, I'm still looking at the position after f6 and wondering what your options are before I say that bishop g5 is bad.
Hmm.
Because I'm not certain. I don't know for sure if this is bad for black. I see possible moves for you, like you could take on f6. You could play g6. I see a number of possible moves. You also could play maybe d5.
Wait, Bishop F6, I think I did consider, and I
Mhm.
think I didn't like for a reason during the game. Let me
Yeah,
think what was the reason.
I'm sure, but
Was
I don't yet know.
there... Yeah, I'm trying to think like what was the reason. Was it that I thought, I mean, it has to be something with the queen and the rook and the bishop, certainly. Uh, because I mean, there's still also that pin on the F7 pawn. Not sure if I thought, maybe I thought that he might have some book sack or something. I mean, what the heck did I see? I mean, I definitely saw something I didn't like there, I think.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm just saying there's a lot of options here. I would say at least 4 candidate moves to look at for black before we give up on this position. There's g6, g takes f6, bishop takes f6, and d5. I'm not very interested in bishop d2. That move after queen d2 doesn't look very good for you. So I'm going to look at the other moves first before I start taking their rook. Let's try d5
Yeah,
first.
g6 I considered about g6, but I really, really didn't like the situation of having that pawn over there, and like everything's set up for a lolly mate. This, I mean, of course, I still have the bishop to cover, but I mean, I would be like I would have that thing in my position forever. So I thought if I allow that, then it's then I'm on the road to defeat. So I g6, like I basically discarded it on those grounds without further calculation.
I mean, what g6 does, it keeps the rook on f1 out of the attack, right? And you don't necessarily have to take that rook, so you could just keep your bishop, at g5 or h6 or somewhere. But let's look at d5 first. That's the most explosive and combative move, right? You play d5, trying to attack their queen and the rook on d2, trying to open up your pieces.
Or what if after d5, what if they just take on g7?
Okay, first question. What if they take on g7?
Wait, what if they take on g7 after they take on d5? First, they should take on d5, I think.
Well, they could
Because
do
I
either.
mean, if they don't take on d5, then yeah.
We just have to look at them one at a time. So let's play pawn takes g7.
Okay.
Now, if pawn takes e4, there's rook takes f7, leaving the queen hanging. And I think white wins. Oh, but the bishop's defending the rook on d8. Maybe black can sack the queen? Almost, but not quite. Look at this. Queen f7. Bishop f7, king f7. And now queen f1 check is the way for white to get out of this. That said, I mean, how good is the position for white after king g7? Rook d8, rook d8. So now it's rook and two bishops against queen and knight. But the knight kind of sucks. Queen f5. Complicated. The bishop on g5 is hanging with check here. The critical line seems to be bishop f4, g3, e3 check, king g1, rook d1 check, knight takes d1, e2. So queen g4 wins. Okay. So I think this doesn't quite work for black, but actually that was very close. That was very close. We got all the black pieces to good squares, and as Mahogi is saying in chat, you know, black could play bishop f6 after queen f5 and try to keep playing. It's not guaranteed that black's going to lose. But if I wanted to make this small material sack, I would want to stay active as black here. I don't. Maybe black's even still okay, even here. Because that knight is just so bad.
No, I don't think black is okay here. I mean, you're the international master. Yeah, here as white, I would be extremely happy if this were me playing this game.
I mean, the idea is that there's this back rank mate for white to deal with. There's the e-pawn, which is going to go to e3, etc., right? Because white can't take it without allowing back rank mate. So the e-pawn's going to stay on the board. And there's the idea of rook d2. So...
What can I see?
Yeah, the more I look at it, the less I'm sure that white's better, even if I play this passive move bishop f6. Huh. Okay, well, that's one interesting option. Let's just say here, to a certain extent, there's a lot of fun for black in this position, Francisco, because the white knight is just kind of locked over there on c3. It's not playing, and black's got a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, this is the this is the kind of position that yeah, with the black pieces you will see a lot of ideas, and I will see none of them.
Okay.
Because yeah, I mean, like if it's me playing with black here, I'm going to lose 100% of the time.
Okay. I mean, maybe black's losing. I don't know, but white needs to play a move to do something about the back rank.
I know what you mean, but I mean, like yeah. Like I know that you do know like how to sacrifice stuff and you know and create like the type of play that justifies sacrifices, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
like I told you before, I mean, I don't know how to play like a pawn or two down a position, you know.
Yeah.
So,
but okay, I mean, Francisco, the idea, just generally speaking, the idea for a position like this as black is that you want to move the e-pawn forward, right, to e3, so the bishop on b7 comes alive, and so you're closer to threatening queening. And then you want to put your rook on d2, and which white piece is going to defend g2. So it's pretty simple what we want to do. Pretty simple what we want to do. Okay, let's look at some other options. So that was d takes e4. Now I'm going to try something else. After f takes g7, I'm now going to take on d2, the rook. Why am I doing that? Because now the queen can't get to g7, right? Because white's own pawn is in the way.
Oh, everything rose. Oh, no. There you go. Okay. I thought you have frozen.
Okay. So I'll play d5. White takes on g7. Now I take the rook. I imagine white's going to take back the bishop. And I want to take on e4 and play rook f7 for white again.
No, wait, it really, yeah, I had muted you by accident. Like, I
Okay.
suppose I pressed the button on my headset. So, yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah, because you were so silent, I was like, okay, did this freeze? And then I saw the camera was actually moving, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had muted you by accident. So, did you say anything
So I was saying that after
after
white
this
takes
one?
on g7, I could try taking the rook instead of the pawn, because now that there's a white pawn on g7, white can't bring the queen to g7 to checkmate me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'll give up my dark squared bishop to win the rook, and then I'll play d takes e4. And again, white has this flashy move, rook takes f7, if they want it, right? I can't take the queen on d2 because rook takes c7 is checkmate, actually, by the bishop on a2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to sack my queen again. So I go queen f7, bishop f7, king f7. Now, how do we evaluate this position? Now it's two rooks against the queen. Well, I guess, again, you wouldn't love to have this position, playing the rooks against the queen. But it
No,
looks...
I would love it. I mean, as black, I would love
You
it.
would?
Yeah.
Okay. It
Yeah, I
looks
would.
it looks
Except if
vaguely...
it's blitz. If it's blitz, I don't know, with a queen they do whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's a slow game like this one, yeah, I mean, no, I would love to have the rooks. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, white's got a very, very high chance of being able to give perpetual check here against your king with just the queen. But with the knight stuck over on c3, you're probably not worse, at least, right? And actually, I keep thinking very aggressively, like trying to get your rooks to d2 and d1 and stuff. But I hadn't really thought about rook c6 and rook d6, looking to cover the king from checks. And one of those moves might be very good too. In fact, I'd looked at very little because I'd imagined queen g5 here, and I hadn't even calculated rook takes c3 yet. So I had really not calculated with any care just yet. But rook takes c3 doesn't work, folks. But I mean, I hadn't calculated much yet. Okay, so that looks possible for black. LG double against queen f2. Black can play queen takes a2 and then give check on d1, winning. But that's a cool idea. Okay, so now let's try d5. Let's have white take on d5, right? I'll play knight d5 for white.
Ah, 95. Okay.
Oh, we have to thank Anna Cramling for a raid. Many thanks, many thanks. Here's a link, folks, if you want to follow Anna to thank her. For those of you just joining us, I'll briefly tell you what's going on. We are part of a competition called Coach Champs, the idea of which is to figure out what is good or bad coaching, or what is good or really good coaching or something. Basically, 8 chess coaches have been given 4 students in 1 month to train them, at which point the students play tournaments against each other and we see which coaches' students fare the best. So I've been working with Francisco here for about 3 weeks. He's in a group for players between 12 and 1600, and then he'll be playing a tournament against the others. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So we're looking at some game of his here. He just played his first OTB tournament. The competition is actually rapid chess, 10-minute games, but he just played his first OTB tournament of classical chess, so we're having a look. I think Francisco probably feels a little bit of pressure, Blue Crow, but he'll be all right. So we've got a very, very complicated position in which Francisco in the OTB game got mated by a very strong opponent, and now we're just looking at alternatives here.
What was the question in the chat that you said feel pressure?
Somebody in chat just told you no pressure, like don't feel pressure about the tournament.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel pressure, but much appreciated.
Yeah. All right, so we're looking at striking back in the center, sacking this D pawn. Suddenly the black pieces are involved at least. What do we do next from here? It's now black's move, and Francisco was playing black, so now I'm wondering. I feel like I'm going to blunder into the same checkmate still. Like if I trade and trade and trade and trade and try and use my open files, white still has queen g5, and I don't seem to be able to cover the checkmate here. And if I leave the knight on d5, I think there's still the same checkmate with queen g5. Knight d5, pretty good. Let's see. I do kind of like losing the d6 pawn, Francisco. It may sound perverse, but I feel like without the d6 pawn, there's just a lot more chances for black here, for the rooks to do something.
All right.
We're just looking for moves here, chat. And the reason we're looking for moves is we're not necessarily trying to prove anything. We're just trying to learn a little bit better how these positions play out, you know? Just trying to learn a little bit. I've been playing this opening my whole life. Francisco's been playing it for a little while. But we still don't know for sure what we're doing. Okay, Francisco, what if we give away our bishop? White puts the bishop on d5, and then we take on f6 with our bishop. So I'm not winning any material for you, right? I gave up on taking the rook on d2. Mm-hmm. I sacked my d pawn before I took the pawn on f6, so I didn't even take a pawn sack. It's just pure equal material.
Mm-hmm.
That may seem unimpressive, but both your rooks are now kind of in the game. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, when I did the bishop takes rook, I did see like the danger at that point, but I thought I had to go for it. But I mean, if I had seen like an alternative where I'm with equal material and a decent position, I would have gone for it. Mm-hmm. I just also didn't see it. But yeah, let me see. What can white do here?
Oh, wait, I have an idea. So I've doubled the white rooks on the f-file. But I've got a move here that's going to show how much this d5 pawn sack increases black's chances. We could maybe play rook takes d5 here to stop rook f6. And after pawn takes d5, bishop h4.
Wait, rook takes d5 when?
So I've played d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, and then I took on f6 with my bishop. And now for white, I played rook f2, queen e7.
Rook df2.
Yeah, rook df2, queen e7, queen g3. And yeah, now I've made a blunder that Kalen's refuted, but it still shows how things are different compared to when the bishop's hidden on a2. There's an idea. Rook takes d5, pawn takes d5, bishop h4.
Yeah, the problem, I suppose, and why you said this was a blunder is because after you take over here, they can just take the other bishop, right?
The problem is that they can play a move like
Oh
queen
no, they can't
h3
take
or
the other bishop because
yeah.
they get no, they get mated. Never mind.
They can play a
They
move
get
like
backrank mated. They do that.
they can play a move like queen h3 or queen g4, and my rook on c8 is undefended, unfortunately. That's what refutes my idea. Yeah. But it just shows there's extra juice for black, extra options. So for now, I will play king h8. Oh, wait. Someone also suggested to me at some earlier point maybe rook d6 to defend the bishop. Maybe not exactly in this position, but I still think that's a good idea, actually, using the rooks together. You know, black is... Yeah. Black is still very much in the game. Very much in the game. I would guess white's advantage is between 0.5 and 0.8. Let's see what the computer says. Computer says +1. Huh. Interesting. But it's not doing anything immediate. It's just moving back and forth. Its variation goes, you know, queen b3, queen d3, queen b3, g3, king g2. So it's what a human would consider a small advantage, actually.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you consider if you evaluate the position as a small edge to white, then there's no way that this 1800 would have seen like something impressive for white with a decisive win or something.
Yeah, there's nothing decisive here, that's for sure. You know, we've got a position. So that's the d5 option. So it's still good for white. But now let's look at one or two of the options of taking on f6, shall we?
Okay.
I'm going to start with pawn takes f6 instead of bishop takes f6. Let's try pawn takes f6. The obvious move to me for white is queen to g3.
Pinning the bishop.
Yeah, and looking to maybe play h4 or rook takes f6. But let me just see, are there other moves for white I should really consider before I play that? White could play knight d5 right away. But you know, now that white doesn't have a pawn on f6, Francisco, you might be able to take the rook on d2, right? If white messes around. Because without the pawn on f6, they don't really have a mating pattern here.
Yeah, but how will you manage to do that? Like after... wait, you mean without queen g3, right?
Right. If white plays something other than queen g3, you might be ready to take that rook.
Yeah, right. And at the very least, you can drop back and then give the bishop back.
Yeah. So I'm going to try queen g3 for white, and my intention for black was king h8. And
king h8, okay, so...
After king h8, I don't think white can play h4 because I'll just take the rook on d2. You know, white's not really threatening any mates yet. So I'll play king h8.
Wait, what about, like, wait, I mean, obviously this is just me seeing ghosts, probably.
Sure.
But if h4, bishop takes rook, and something like rook f6, can they try to do something from there?
Well, how are they ever really going to threaten anything?
Well, because they still have the light squared bishop staring at f7. Now they would have the rook staring at f7, and they have the queen here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you do have sufficient pieces over there with the two rooks and the queen and stuff.
Yeah, we've got a full extra rook, and white's not really threatening checkmate yet. So the general defensive plan here is going to be to play rook g8. And so...
Oh, yeah, there's rook g8, never mind.
So my thought is after we play king h8, white has to save the rook. Maybe rook d to f2. And then I would play rook g8 for black. And
Wait, what? King h8 and then
oh, sorry, I played
rook
king h8.
d2 f2. You said,
Yeah,
right?
I take the rook that's hanging. I put it on f2. Maybe threatening rook
Mm-hmm.
f6 with an exchange sack, but probably even that's not that great for white. Maybe threatening h4 when black would have to play bishop f4, and then white better hope they can take on f4, because otherwise, I mean, they're just never breaking through. But I'm going to play rook g8 first for black, right? Bringing a piece to defend the squares around the king. And now white can't play a move like rook f6 because there will be a tempo on the queen.
They lose the queen, yeah.
Yeah. So I play rook g8, and I don't know. I think white plays something like queen h3, and I really don't feel like I'm losing as black here. I got to tell you, like it feels quite safe to me actually. Now I'm thinking maybe I play rook g6, bring a second rook over. I mean, I don't know. I just have pieces, in the game.
Yeah.
So far, g takes f6 looks very promising to me.
Yeah.
Right? First variation of it. And I don't know exactly what you feared during the game, and I know there's like a lot of different variations to look at, and it's hard to remember everything, but g takes f6.
No,
I would have fears in all these positions as well. I'd have fears in all these positions.
Okay,
They're all scary looking.
I didn't look at a lot of variations. Like I think probably. I mean, I can't quite recall the whole thing, but I mean, I didn't calculate so much, definitely. So, I mean, also for me, obviously, it's harder to visualize and calculate. So like as deep as what you're mentioning. I mean, not even close.
Yeah.
But I mean, I looked at something like probably where I stopped probably was GF6, Queen G3, and probably didn't like that. Like that's
Something
probably
like that.
how I went
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned. Something like Queen G3, I'm pinned over there, and yes, I think I saw that I could move the king away and maybe bring the rook to G8, but I still didn't like it. Like I was like, yeah, I'm opening things up. Eventually, I'll have to move the bishop. Then when I move the bishop, there can come something like rook f6, and yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, there's a
yeah,
little
it was
little bit of
something along those lines.
a little bit of a conflict or a struggle here, right? In that you're playing the Najdorf, and sometimes the Najdorf forces you to be very brave, and you prefer positions that are a little less like scary for either side. So there's a little of that, but okay. G takes f6 definitely looks better than the other two variations we looked at so far. It looks better than the d5 pawn sack, and it looks better than taking the rook. This came from a Najdorf software.
Now I actually do remember that. Yeah, I'm a potato. I actually told you that I didn't have this in PGN, but I do remember now that I did have it in PGN because actually when I came back from this round, I did plug it in to see what the computer said. So now I remember what the computer said. The computer said that bishop takes rook was correct, but followed by gf6. So it was like a combination of the two things.
Really?
But yeah, it was.
The computer said take the rook
G6.
and then right away take the
And
pawn on
then
f6 so they can't use it in combination with the queen.
Yeah.
Okay. So, bishop d2, queen d2, g takes f6. And then against rook f6. Maybe even d5 then. That would be a real computer-like answer to life.
Wait, but if you play d5, yeah, because you block the bishop.
Yeah, we just block the bishop for a move, right? And if it goes to d5, we trade it, so then f7's not hanging. If the knight goes to d5, the idea is to play queen c2 and go after white's back rank. Obviously, white's about one move away from crushing our king, but the back rank seems to stop them. Okay, someone in chat says instead of playing rook f6, queen h6. The idea of rook f3 should be mate. What are you missing? All right, let's see if we can figure it out. Looks scary. If king h8, you can give check and then lift. How about queen e7, covering the pawn? Rook f3, king h8. Oh, and then you go to h3, not g3. That's crushing. Queen h6. Queen e7, rook f3. I think queen f8 loses as well, Pisani, to queen f6, right? And then rook g3 next. And bishop f7 is, you know, a big threat as well at this point. Okay, queen h6. Queen h6. I don't see a defense to queen h6. Why did Francisco's computer see? These are tough puzzles here. Very tough puzzles. I thought of that too, soccer f5, but after white plays rook f5, they're threatening rook g5 and bishop f7. That seems like guaranteed mate as well. I can't find it. Can't find it. Bishop d2, gf6, queen h6, no, queen h6, queen e7, rook f3. Oh, okay. This is amazing. Daniel Landau found it for us. Wow, very nice. Okay, so the key is at this exact moment is where you have to play rook takes c3. White can't go rook g3 or rook h3 because your rook will take it.
So after rook f3? You have to sacrifice and exchange back?
Yeah. And then white can take it with rook or with pawn, and then you play bishop takes e4. And you can cover both g7 and h7 with that bishop.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Wow, but the timing had to be perfect on that shot. Good job, Daniel.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, exciting. Whew. Wow. Okay, so this is really tricky stuff to calculate. And you have to do it partly off of instincts, partly off of calculation. Even in a classical game, you know, you can't calculate this stuff 100% for sure.
Okay.
I mean, you can try. You can certainly try, right? But sometimes you won't make it to the end of the variation, and you'll finally have to say, what do I believe in? You know, taking on f6 with my bishop and an exchange sack there, or taking on f6 with my pawn, which doesn't allow the exchange sack, right? My g takes f6 move is looking not to win the exchange, but to hold the f6 square long enough with the bishop to play king h8, rook g8, and get into the game that way, right? At some point, if you can't calculate all the way to a forced win or draw or loss or something, you just have to go with your instinct.
Intuition.
Yeah. About which position looks good. And so to me, my personal intuition, which would have been wrong to the supercomputer, right, was not to take the rook on d2 with the bishop, because our king's going to be exposed for a little bit there, right? So I'd rather have my bishop on g5 for a moment. I think white's going to sack and exchange later to break through if I leave the bishop on the board. Now, you know, the position might be winning for white or winning for black. The question is, you know, how playable is it in a human game, right? Especially a rapid game for our purposes, right? But I guess also for you, classical, if you're going to play more classical tournaments after this, right? How playable is this position? How likely are you to find right moves compared to your opponents to find the right moves, etc., right? To me, it feels like you haven't really done things wrong, so this position should somehow be playable. That's why I just kept wanting to look at the position after f6 instead of going back earlier and saying that everything you did is wrong. And I think this position is difficult for both sides to play. You know, for example, after g takes f6, the most obvious move for a human is queen g3. 100%. And according to our analysis, queen g3 sucks and actually doesn't help white at all. It just gives black extra time when they play rook g8, right? White will have to move the queen more. So the best move for white, instead of queen g3, would probably be rook d to f2. And here's what a point I want to make for you, because I am guessing that from your perspective, you're thinking like, A, you might be losing. B, if your position is good, you might blunder it and lose anyway. So what's the point of playing this position as black? What's the hope, right? Like
exactly.
Like
yeah.
how do you believe in this? Why is this ever
even
going to
if I'm
work
not
out for
losing,
you, right?
I probably will lose. Yeah, that's
Right.
that was my thinking when I briefly considered gf6. I was like, yeah, I'm going to open my king up. I'm going to get crushed even if I'm not losing.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So here's the important thing that chess players sometimes forget about. They sometimes forget that their opponent is going to make mistakes or have difficult moves that they can't find, or, you know, struggle or get low on time or lose their confidence or blunder something, right? That's what you tend to forget. The reason that you're ever going to win any position like this as black is going to be that your opponent makes more mistakes than you. It's not that the position's objectively winning for black and you're going to play perfectly, right? It's that your opponent's going to make mistakes too. So if you play king h8, rook g8, you just have to understand those are playable positions, right? They're just, it's a complicated fight. And your opponent could blunder on the very first move with queen g3, I think. Very, very likely. Very, very likely queen g3 for a human to play that. Also, imagine it's a rapid game. I mean, people are just blitzing out queen g3. So that's what you need to remember, Francisco, for your confidence. You're playing an opening here with some of these lines of the Najdorf. You're playing an opening that nobody can play accurately with white or with black, right? When I play this opening, I'm often losing right off the bat, but then I'm getting a good score overall in my tournament games with this opening, right? And why is that? You know, because it's complicated and my opponents are making mistakes as well. And so it's a strange place to say that one's confidence comes from. It's not from your confidence in the position, nor in your own ability to calculate every move correctly. It's actually a more reasonable confidence, right? Which is you just need to make less mistakes than your opponent, right? So you just have to remember that they can make mistakes too. They can play great moves and they can make mistakes. Just like you. You're capable of both as well. And that's true all the way up to GM levels, right? So it's guaranteed that your opponents are going to trade mistakes with you. because I can show you my Najdorf games, and they're just mistakes back and forth as well. Yeah. In fact, I will show you one right after this, because I think it'll be a good one to emphasize this lesson here. Okay. So I hope that makes sense and you understand that you can play this position. You have to be willing to play risky positions. And you have to just keep fighting in those positions, you know. You're going to see ghosts, so to speak, and you have to be pretty brave against ghosts, right? To sometimes say like, well, but do I see a win for the opponent? Yes, it's scary. Let's just accept in advance. It looks scary. When they sack a pawn with f6, and you can take either a pawn or an exchange, and there's 2 or 3 different ways to do it, it looks scary. We accept that. But the only thing we're running away from are variations that are basically forced wins for the opponent. Otherwise, we just have to believe we just take the pawn and bring the pieces towards our king. Or apparently the computer would take the rook on d2 and still just defend their king. And maybe you do it that way. Now, I'm curious about very, very curious about one other point much earlier in this game, okay? Which is whether you should have played e5 or e takes f5 right after you traded knights on d4. And I'm curious about this because already last time when we talked about this opening, we mentioned that both moves might be possible here, and I didn't know which was best then. And it's so hard to judge that I was like afraid if I tell Francisco what I think, I might be wrong. If I check with the computer and then tell him what the computer thinks, then I'm showing him the wrong approach to learning chess, right? Which is to take like shortcuts that you then don't remember or don't believe because you haven't seen them. But I remember telling you that both e5 and ef5 looked playable in this position if you traded knights. It may have been this exact position, I think.
I mean, it was definitely in like we talked about that. I don't remember in this exact position or in a different position from the same opening, but yeah, it was we talked about both. Like it was something along the lines of if I don't have the bishop on c8, then it's not good to take on f5 because they can take back with a rook. In this case, it wouldn't be possible because I still have the bishop there.
Right. So I didn't like ef5 if they're taking on f5 with their knight or their rook, right? But if you trade knights and your bishop's still on this diagonal, I thought e takes f5 should be playable as well. If your bishop's already on b7, then I thought, well, you just have to play e5, and you can't fight those light squares otherwise. So, but let's have a quick look here.
I think what I do.
I
think what I didn't like about ef5 here was again like not calculated or anything, just stuff in the air, which is I didn't like having that to play with that isolated d pawn.
Yeah, but that isolated d pawn is like, that's a small little worry on the scale of things here, right? I mean, you see the pawn on c2, it's just as weak as the d pawn. So it's really going to be about the piece activity in this position, right? Like, who's going to use the e file or the c file? Your opponent's main good thing about their position would actually be to like bother you about your bishop on e7 and try and tie you up in a way where you can't untangle that bishop and knight too easily, because there are times where if you go rook e8, bishop f8, white could play bishop g5, and then your knight actually needed the bishop to be on e7. So the main hope for white is some awkwardness on the bishop on e7. It is not your d6 pawn. They could just straight up attack it with every piece they have and take it, and they won't have a good endgame. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay. So you can even give it up?
Yeah. If you've played active moves, bishop b7, rook e8, rook c8. And I think I told you, like, in general, it's best to have your rooks on c8 and e8 here, not on d8, just hunkered down behind the pawn.
You may have said that.
But another thing you can do with the pawn is you can put it on d5. That ensures that whenever they take it on d5, they'll have moved the knight off of c3, and you'll take a pawn back on c2.
Oh.
Right? Okay. If you just play d5, I mean, there's no winning the pawn for white. Yeah. And you get ideas of queen c5, bishop c5, stuff like that. But anyway, I'm curious because I've been wondering this for a couple days. whether the computer thinks one of these moves is much better than the other. Okay, very interesting. The computer thinks there's a huge difference. I really thought it would be close because I couldn't tell. And I've been thinking about it for a week. The computer says taking on f5 is like really pleasant for black. ef5,
Okay.
ef5.
Yeah, I told you. You know how you could have come to the conclusion because I played e5.
Because you
I
played the
told
other
you,
way.
like,
You
I mean,
always do.
whenever I have, yeah, I always like. I mean, if you want to bet, money on whether one of the two moves is good, just look at what I play and then put it on the other one.
Yeah, but
It's
that's
it's
a
just
joke.
mathematics.
I can't use that to pick all my moves. Okay, so my computer says if you trade on f5 and play bishop b7, it's half a pawn advantage for black. So it really likes this position. And once it's played bishop b7, it looks like it's just going to put the pawn on d5 to take more space, lock in those white pieces on the queen side, and just, have a good fight in the center for black.
So let's say after you play bishop b7, here they played bishop f4, for instance. What do you do there?
Okay, so bishop f4 would like pin the pawn so that we can't play d5, right? So the computer's going to play either queen c5 or queen c6 here, I bet.
Queen c5 offering the trade immediately.
Right, some
And
move to
also
unpin
you're
that
kind
pawn,
of forcing
right?
a trade because you're hitting this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, queen c5. Okay.
Computer says queen c6 is better than queen c5 here. Queen c6, attacking g2.
Okay.
And now it's saying that white's going passive. It's saying, queen d2, queen f2. It's saying black's way better. Queen d2. Why is this such a big deal for black to play d5? Oh, we're threatening d4 because the queen's still protecting g2. Bishop e5. d4 sacking the pawn. Oh my god. Wow, this is instructive. All right, so here's the line, Francisco. ef5, ef5. It's not a good line. It's a good line to learn from, right? So we go e takes f5, e takes f5, bishop b7. White plays bishop f4, right? Developing the bishop to one of its best two squares, maybe the most likely square, right? Queen c6, threatening, checkmate. Queen d2, and now black just starts pushing the d pawn. d5, bishop e5, d4 anyway. The queen can't take because of checkmate. And if the bishop takes, black plays rook d8. And white's just tied up.
Wait, did you say d5, bishop d5?
Bishop e5. Trying to stop d4, right? Because black's just trying to push the pawn straight down the board. If you try and blockade it with the queen, queen d4, black has bishop c5, and then they can push it anyway. So bishop e5 for white is the best move, but black can still nearly win the game with d4. If bishop d4, rook d8, and white just loses.
Whoa.
So basically, my computer thinks f4, f5 was too fast from white in this game. With the bishop still on c8, you can trade on f5, then play bishop b7 with a full open diagonal for the bishop, and you're just much better. In that sense, it really does make sense to trade on f5, right? Because you're getting rid of the e pawn, and then the bishop on b7 is amazing.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you how exactly was black winning after white moved the queen away to still defending the bishop, but yeah, it's because it's overworked. Because I mean, otherwise you can just take the bishop. They
We'll
can't
play
take
rook
back
takes
because you have
d4.
checkmate.
Yeah, and someone in chat's wondering about rook f3, trying to block the checkmate, and there black wins with bishop c5, going after the bishop that's tied up.
That's fair,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Again, we're not supposed to calculate every detail and play these positions like machines with white or with black. But to me, it's very instructive how to play that position. right? We trade on f5, take the long diagonal with the bishop and queen, and then push that d pawn down the board. Very, very cool. Very cool theme. So to me, that means white messed up a little bit when they played f5. And so computer agrees. White should have played bishop e3 instead of f5. And only now if we play bishop b7, then f5 would be playable. We'd still trade on d4 like before. And now ef5 is not as good because white will take with the rook. That's going to be an advantage for white. So it's kind of like waiting for the bishop to go to c8 before playing f5. But now with the extra move bishop e3 played, e5, queen d3, rook fd8, and it just says it's a fine position for black, right? So you've got one full extra tempo compared to the game where white played bishop g5 in one move. Hey, G. Christensen. It's recommended to do this as often as you enjoy doing it. All right. Shall I show you another game, Francisco?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, yeah, I assume you are about to go. So yeah, sure, show me, yeah, feel free to show me whatever you want to show me. Yeah.
I think I have 15 to 20 minutes to find this game and show it to you.
All right.
See.
Good.
Not that. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. All right, I'm going to send you a link in our chat here, so you can also click through it on your own side at whatever pace you want. So I play the Najdorf. Let me know when you've got the game.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm there.
Got it? Okay, cool. So let me first tell you what I'm trying to teach you by showing you the game. Then we'll play through the game, and we'll see if it does teach you that or not, okay? But I'm trying to emphasize this idea that when you play the Najdorf, there's a certain degree of danger and complexity that's there. The complexity is high enough that we should be expecting everybody to make mistakes. You're not feeling confident because you know that you're making mistakes because you know how hard it is. I want you to become quote-unquote comfortable with the fact that you will be making mistakes, but so will your opponents. Right? And how are you going to win your games? Well, of course, the same way anyone wins their games, their opponents are going to make mistakes. You're playing something so complicated, they're going to make more mistakes than normal. So will you. But that's part of this opening. So, and we also get to play brilliant moves. And we might win or lose even if we play brilliant moves. My opponent plays a bunch of brilliant moves this game and then still loses. But hopefully they still enjoyed the game because they found some really great moves. So we get a bishop g5 variation of the Najdorf, which is generally the sharpest variations, period, of all the Najdorf variations are the bishop g5 ones.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
So, and I played the sharpest answer for black, which is not stopping white's move e5. And white plays e5, you know, sort of winning the knight. And then black plays queen c7. And it turns out black can just barely win back the piece they lose because of this tactic, queen e5 check, attacking the bishop. on g5.
Uh-huh.
But this variation, the downside, the good side is we didn't lose a piece for nothing. The downside is we're going to move our queen around like 4 times just to not be down material. Not even to win material, just to not be down material. So white's going to get ahead in development. So queen e5 check, bishop e2, queen g5, castles. So white's got 3 extra minor pieces out compared to black, plus the rook is already on an open file. And there's a pawn on f6 harassing our king.
Yeah.
So it looks nearly terminal. You know, it's pretty risky. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, the pawn on F6.
Yeah. It's a problem,
Imagine
you know.
if I feel uncomfortable about playing against F4, F5 in general.
Yeah.
Imagine if I play this position where I already allow the pawn to be on F6.
Right. The pawn on f6 is really upsetting me, right? But if I take it, then it lets white's knight go knight e4, knight f6 at some point, right? So it could get even worse. So I just live with the pawn on f6 for a while. You'll see how long that pawn is on f6 this game. Shockingly. So I go rook a7. And this brings the rook over to d7 to stop some checkmates on the d file. So white plays queen d3, which is a good move. I've had a lot of people play this mistake, knight e4 against me, but then after queen e3 check, they actually have to bring the knight back to f2. So the best moves are played by my opponent for quite a long time this game. Queen d3, rook d7, knight e4. Powerful, right? So now f6 is really a problem. Queen e5. Now another nice move, knight f3, attacking the queen. And if black trades queens, they still lose in the endgame because actually the queen's one of my few pieces that's doing anything to keep me from immediately losing. So I retreat the queen, and then white moves their queen over. So, yeah, now, I mean, I can't take on f6 because of knight f6. Let me see if I could find the best move now. During the game, I couldn't find it. Maybe I should just develop the bishop to b7.
Yeah, that sounds like a decent move.
I was also looking at knight c6 during the game. What does it say here?
Knight C6.
Yeah, I think maybe just bishop b7 would be best. Just developing that piece. There could be some world where you trade the bishop on e4 and then can play gf6 maybe. G. Christensen, that's what I played. I played g6. I wanted to develop this bishop from f8 and I was tired of f takes g7. But now that pawn is just living there, right? So very difficult position for black. White plays a great move here. c4. Beautiful. If I take it, I think they can even take back with the bishop. Like maybe they can play rook c1, but I think they can also take with the bishop. And if queen takes, rook c1 and then rook c8. So c4, I decide I have to keep the position closed here. I play b4, and now another beautiful move. Obvious moves would be rook d1 and rook e1. But white takes the bishop on e2, which is now blocked by the c pawn and not super useful, and notices this other angle against black. Oof. This move was powerful.
Like the diagonal that you left behind. But, yeah.
Very, very strong move. So I bring my bishop around to c6 to block that. And now white just goes to trade the rook on the d file, right? And the idea is basically that the rook on h8 can't get to d8. So every move white's playing here, these are just brilliant moves, one after the next. My rook on h8 can't get to the d file to defend things. And with the pawn on f6, if I bring out my bishop and castle kingside, then queen h6 will be made in 1. And if I don't do that, then the rook will just sit on h8 and eventually white will checkmate me on the d file. It won't even take that long, right? All right, so I realize I have to avoid the rook trade because that lets the second rook take over faster. Knight g5. Another brilliant move, sacking the h-pawn and starting to make threats of like knight f7. If rook f7, there'd be knight d6 check. And if king f7, white can go knight g5 check, and then either f7 or knight e6. Right? So knight g5. It's powerful. I take the pawn. See how brave that is, Francisco? Like, I know I'm probably lost in this position, right? I understand that c4, bishop d1, bishop a4, it all felt very strong for white. And I wasn't confident that I'd found the right move with g6. So I figure I'm probably lost. But that happens sometimes, right? That your position's lost. So I'm playing the best moves that I can. I can't be afraid of this or that, right? I need that pawn. I take it. Then I come back into the middle of the board on e5. Partly this is blocking their queen from breaking through on e6 and some of the knight f7 variations. Partly it allows me to take on f7 with my rook because I don't have a bishop hanging on d6 anymore. Okay, white should trade the rook on d7 probably. And then I think it's here. Was it here? Where did white miss the one winning move? Or the first winning move?
Wait, what did bishop e5 do again? I mean, apart from saving your bishop.
So basically, I'm just saving the bishop. My bishop was on d6 before I took on h2, right? My bishop was on d6, and that was allowing white to threaten knight f7 because my rook would be overloaded between f7 and d6. So I wanted to get the bishop off of there, even though I didn't want to trade rooks. And I saw the best square for the bishop is e5, but I first took the pawn and then went to e5. And this puts a lot of pressure on white to find the right moves. So this is the thing that I think you'll often forget because you're having such a hard time picking your moves. It's so stressful and difficult. But the moves for white are very hard to find as well. Right? Because the general idea here for white is to take over the d file with a rook trade, right? But here, if they go rook d7, queen d7, they actually don't have rook d1. And there's also a time limit for them on taking over the d file because with bishop e5, I'm thinking about the idea of putting a piece on d4 and blocking the file with my knight or my bishop. And I also seem to be defending this knight f7 idea. And while their knight's on g5, there are positions where I might be able to castle because they don't have queen h6 in one move. And then when they move the knights out of the way to try to play queen h6, maybe I'll engineer bishop takes f6, defending some of that area. Depends, right? I could sometimes deflect the rook with rook takes d1 and then get the pawn on f6 maybe. So the difficulty level for white is very high. I think the right move here was knight e6, which I didn't even really look at during the game. Was it knight e6 or knight f7? d7, queen d7. Now it can't be knight e6 anymore. Maybe it's knight f7 here. But it's so hard to find for sure. Even having looked at this game once before, I'm not 100% sure that this is right. If king here, queen h6, not knight g5 check. Threatening queen g7. Rook f8. Queen h7 check, king e8. Black just escapes with the extra piece. Okay, the only good move for white would have been knight c5. First, you sack the knight on f7. Then you don't play knight g5. You have to play queen h6. Then you have to play knight c5 for who knows what reason. Oh, I see. We've got to keep this pawn defended because of check, check, knight e6. Okay, so we'll stop the variation here, Francisco. I just tell you, very, very hard variation for white to find, right? Extremely hard to find knight f7 here. And so white played queen c5, stopping me from getting my rook out. Right? And to some extent, every move here is kind of like a mistake, so to speak, in the sense that none of these moves are going to be the top engine move now for a couple of moves here, I guess. And I think that here, even after queen c5, I had a saving move, which I then didn't find. I thought about it. But I played a move which I thought forced a win. It allows a forced win for white that white couldn't find and I couldn't find, and therefore the move does win for me. Does that make sense? It's like a fake winning move.
Mm-hmm.
Like human versus human.
Like practically speaking is really good.
Human versus human, it sort of forces a win. But instead there's some other move which would be computer better, but maybe then I would have lost. Who knows? But the move is bishop d4, trapping the queen, allowing knight d6 check with the idea of king f8 walking into the discovered checks, but white loses because their queen and knight can't, like, it just doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Any discovered check, I take their queen, and if the queen moves away, the knight's hanging. So I played bishop d4, and the only move for white is queen d6, trading queens. And my plan, my idea, my reasoning was I will play queen takes d6, knight takes d6, check, king d7 on purpose, sacking the f7 pawn. But remember, I won the pawn on h2, and now I'm trading into an endgame, developing my rook, and I've got the long-range bishop. I'm going to take on b2 at some point and win this endgame. And I think my opponent like bought into that narrative as well, right? He thought like, oh shoot, like what are white's chances in this endgame? They look terrible now. And so he didn't find whatever the one winning idea was for white here, which does start with the right first move, knight f7. That move's obvious. And then I play rook f8. And then here there's some winning move for white that I didn't appreciate. I mean, I thought of it during the game. I just didn't know if it was winning or not. And then the computer said it's like just barely winning. And the idea is rook to d1 to sack the rook for black's bishop.
Okay.
And how exactly it works, like if I go e5, there's knight e5 check, I guess. If I go h6, there's rook d4, knight e5, king moves, knight h7. And the knights manage to keep the f-pawn alive all the way down. So I think that is like the key line and key idea for white is rook d1, rook takes d4. My opponent didn't play rook d1, and then he lost that endgame. Because his knights, were just... Because I was able to eliminate the f-pawn, right? And it was pretty hopeless for white. So...
Yeah, well, I mean... Yeah, you have seen already what my endgame skills are, so... Yeah, this I could lose from either side, but...
Sure, yeah, of course, it's still possible.
But I believe you.
It's still possible for us to lose this from either side, right? But in the game, my opponent didn't play rook d1, so they played like g4 for whatever reason. I played h6, knight h6, rook f6. I traded off their f-pawn. Whether or not you would win or lose this endgame, I mean, you can see that, black has basically won the game at a GM level. And so, this is kind of what I envisioned with bishop d4, and my opponent kind of bought into my narrative there. Okay, if we were playing classical chess instead of a rapid game online, maybe the quality would be a bit higher, but I can tell you my classical games online often have similar features, right? That somebody plays a move that should lose, but it wins, and then it goes back and forth 2 more times, etc., right? So... So what I want you to just like believe in is that you can have these scary positions and you can still win, right? You just have to see how it is that you can still win. And part of it is we have to be brave. Like sometimes we will lose, right? Sometimes our opponent will have knight f7 or knight e6 at a moment that we missed it or that we didn't realize how good it was. Or maybe it won't even be good, but then we won't defend it correctly and we'll lose from a winning position. That kind of stuff can happen, right? And other times they won't find the one winning variation that they could have played, and then they'll just be down a piece or whatever, in some endgame. So, you have to embrace that the complexity, you have to change your attitude about mistakes a little bit, right? It's okay for you to make mistakes. We're doing something that's hard enough that we make mistakes. We're not trying to play tic-tac-toe. We're playing a game on purpose that's difficult enough that there's mistakes from both sides. So you have to be gentler and more accepting with yourself about your mistakes. And you have to be more optimistic and confident about scary positions because there will also be mistakes from the opponent.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yellow's asking, should you go into difficult positions for the sake of being difficult if they are more difficult for you, though? That's basically like a personal choice, right? Like, you can go into complicated positions either because you like them or because you think that you have more confidence in you than in your opponent in those complicated positions, right? So Mikhail Tal, he would go into these positions on purpose because he thought his opponents were going to make more mistakes than he was. Not because he thought that he wasn't going to make mistakes, right? But he was just confident that he would make less mistakes than somebody else. You can also sometimes go into them because of necessity. And Francisco, you don't necessarily love this kind of stuff the way Mikhail Tal does, right? You don't have the same like preferred selection of positions as him, right? But in chess, to some extent, you have to be willing to play different kinds of positions because sometimes you sort of get forced into them. Like, anyone could be playing a really solid opening and your opponent just plays a dubious piece sacrifice, right? And then you have to play that kind of position. So you're playing a fundamentally sound positional opening, the Najdorf, that's been the favorite of basically every world champion in the last 80 years. Right? One of the best openings there is in chess. And there are some lines that are very sharp like this, right? And so sometimes you have to be willing to play them. Pisani, what's discouraging about it? I won the game. Once white made a mistake, it's an almost equal material endgame. Here's the thing about the pressure on white in the Sicilian Pisani. At a master level, most of the equal material endgames are winning for black, or like much better for black. So basically, white has a pressure on them throughout the game that if they just trade a bunch of pieces, they're going to lose the endgame. And so they're like, I've got to find the moment where knight f7 works, or I've got to find the moment where knight e6 works. And they try to calculate it, and it's too hard for them. Can you identify with the white side of this equation now, Francisco? You like feel like you've got to find the right moment for knight e6, and you can't quite make it work. You're calculating, and like it doesn't look like it's winning, and you're scared to sack the piece, right? But you're also scared to just play a bunch of simple moves, do nothing special, and then lose the endgame.
No, I can't relate. I'm with white. With white, I'm getting crushed against the Sicilian too. So like.
Yeah, the Sicilian
no matter
is.
what I play, like I'm losing left, right, and center with white against the Sicilian. I still don't have like a weapon that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, the Sicilian's a lot of pressure on both players. It's really tough, and it's scary from both sides. That's what you have to remember. Like, from black, it's scary that you could get savaged by some kind of sacrifice, and then it's going to be so complicated and you don't know what to do. But from white, you have like a pressure that you have to come up with something like that, and you have to come up with it at the right time, and it's not going to be obvious. I mean, I think even having played that game as black, and even having looked at it afterwards with a computer and figured out at what point white could win, I still wouldn't be confident in that exact position to win with white against another player. It's just that difficult. And that's a stress and a difficulty from white side. So we just have to, understand and feel that. We're humans, we're making mistakes. Our opponents are human, they're making mistakes. We're under pressure, they're under pressure. And if you can play with some confidence despite all that, that'll be an advantage for you. And you'll start to feel and be able to prosper from your opponent's nerves, right? You have to sometimes feel like, oh, they're scared. Oh, they don't know what to do. Oh, they feel like I'm going to win. And then you let them know, I am going to win. I am going to win, You're headed towards a lost endgame, And you can't knock me out. So, yeah. Hopefully that's some mistake therapy for you. And
Yeah, that was instructive. Yeah.
maybe we meet again tomorrow at the same time.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, maybe next time I can show you uh, the other games that I lost in this event, especially the other Bishop C4 game,
Okay.
because the other Bishop C4 game actually was pretty long. I didn't even run it with a computer,
Mm-hmm.
so there may
Great.
be something extremely ridiculous in there that I didn't
Uh-huh.
even notice. But yeah.
Okay, sure. And Francisco, you're still doing the basics, right? Which is some tactics every day.
Well, I was. I have to be honest with you. These last few days, I didn't do the tactics.
Okay.
Like after I went on the spiral of losses, I was like, I was like, fuck it. I'm just losing everything. So I didn't feel like inspired even to do the tactics.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll get back to them.
All right. Get back to the tactics. And keep
All
playing
right.
some practice games, right? So these are your two basics, right? Some tactics every day, 30 to 45 minutes. Couple practice games.
Okay, I thought it was about 1 hour, right?
You can do an hour if you want. Anything over 30 minutes is fine.
All right. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I told Martin an hour, you 45 minutes, and Cash 30 minutes. But,
Yeah, before you had said Martin and me about an hour,
okay.
and
Great.
and the rest, yeah. But
All right.
but yeah, if you say over 30 minutes, that's easier, obviously.
Yeah. I think 30 to 45 minutes is okay.
All right.
Just keep at those. Play a couple practice games. And if you feel inspired, maybe record a little something about how you're feeling about the winning, the losing, the mistakes, the confidence. You know, I get this sense like you like to help other people. So maybe you could like write something or make a little video on the subject. I said I know you like to help other people. Right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe you
Yeah, I
could
do.
either write a little something or record a little video about your thoughts and feelings about losing or making mistakes and trying to get over rage and self-hate and stuff like that. Maybe you could make a little video that would
alright.
help some other people. I was checking out your YouTube channel
True.
this
Nice.
weekend.
Thank you.
I had a few minutes. So I saw your YouTube videos, and you know, if you feel like it, this isn't an assignment from me, but if you feel like it, you could maybe make a little video, talk about your feelings about like losing streak or you know, confidence or how you feel about making mistakes, and you know, your journey hopefully towards being more comfortable and accepting of both your mistakes and your losses. And less miserable.
I could do that, yeah.
I'm trying to push you in that direction. I don't know if I'm being successful, but you know, if you record some of your thoughts, it'll help us, both you and me, to figure out what can really help somebody who's fighting their way through that.
All right.
Because
yeah,
yes, that quote is accurate for many people, right? And my hope is to make it accurate for less people. So.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right, I got to go pick up the kids. Have a great day, Francisco.
All right.
Everybody else in chat,
Thank you. You too,
I will be back.
Thanks for the lesson.
I'll be back in 1 hour with Cash. You're welcome, Francisco. Always welcome. It is a pleasure to talk chess with you.
It's a pleasure to talk with you.
And
thanks, Chad. Bye.
Yeah, so chat, we'll be back in an hour. We're going to send a raid to somebody out of kindness and friendship and love and all. And let's go with Zefcat. And I'll be back in an hour, as I said. All right? Cheers, folks.